Oh, there we are live. I love seeing the magic go live. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you out here in good old USA and beyond, hopefully. I'm Gila Kurtz. I am one of the co-founders and co-owners of Dog is Good, and you are watching the Dog is Good lifestyle show, which we bring to you normally every other week. But given that it's National Dog Training Month, we have had a guest every single week, and it's been really informative and fun. So if you are just hopping on, please share with your dog-loving friends, especially those who have busy dogs that need something to do. This is the perfect show for them. Or if they just want to have fun and learn how to do some really cool tricks, because this is all about trick training. Really fun stuff. I mean, let's face it, guys. Dog training is trick training. That's all it is. But this is like the really fun stuff. And for some reason, there's this unique thing that happens to you when you're teaching a dog a trick that makes it go so much easier and seems to be a lot more fun. As you're popping in, I want to see where you're from. So please say hello. Tell us where you're from. And by the way, if your dog has a great trick, please pop that also into the comments. At least you can either post a video or you can text exactly what your dog can do, because we have the foremost expert on trick training with us today. So I want you to take advantage of the time with Sara. And I see lots of people popping on now, so I'm very excited. Every week we do a giveaway, and this is no different. So this week we are giving away our brand new dog lover hat. I love this. It's super cute. It's really cute, actually. The color is fantastic, and it has all this little detail on it. Little Bolo logo, inspired by dog. Dog is good, and you are a dog lover for sure. So the way that you win this is just enter into the comments, and you'll be entered to win. And if you are watching the replay, go ahead and enter anyway, because we actually don't pick it for 24 hours. So you have a chance to win as well. And so, yay, thank you guys for popping in. Cheryl, I always so appreciate you're here every week and every time we're on, and you always add such great value to our community. So thank you for all your posts and your contribution. And Kalia up there in Washington, she's such a superstar. You can follow her on Front Seat Rider. And Doreen from Michigan, where hopefully it's not too cold. Oh, and Karen from Australia. I love it. You know, Karen, if you win, I'll hand deliver. I will hand deliver this to you. Lisa, welcome. So everybody, welcome to the Lifestyle Show. I want to dive right in because we have a lot to talk about. It's going to be super fun. And I don't want to miss a beat with our guest. Sara, actually, this is the second time she's been on the show. So I'm excited to bring her back. And I want to give you guys, for those of you who don't know who she is, as I mentioned before, she is probably one of the world's foremost experts on trick training with your dog. So I'll give you the formal background. She grew up in Ontario, Canada, and successfully ran her own dog training facility for over 5 years. During that time, she taught dog tricks, obedience, puppy foundation, and agility classes, but is now revered as the top international trick dog trainers and has received several awards showcasing her achievements in the past years. Her dogs, excuse me, have earned a multitude of agility titles and are savvy in dock diving, frisbee, and canine freestyle. Sara and her Super Collies, excuse me, Sara and her Super Collies have made appearances on The Late Show with David Letterman and continue to captivate audiences all over the world. She's aptly earned her title as celebrity dog trainer after placing 5th on season 12 of America's Got Talent. And she was also awarded Dog Trainer of the Year in 2017 from Greater Mats. I don't know if I said that right. Okay, she is currently living in LA. So hopefully one day I can just go visit her at her facility, where she was telling me it's amazing up there. And excuse me. Spends her days performing along with teaching dog trick workshops around the globe. So, wow. You guys, you're in for a treat. Sara, thank you. Welcome. Sorry for, I'm going to have some water here. You guys don't mind me drinking a little water here.
It's all good.
Whew, okay. So, Sara, trick trainer extraordinaire. By the way, guys, at any point in time, just pop in questions and she will welcome those and answer those for you too. We were talking before we went live about, everything that we do with our dogs is in essence a trick, right? But we have this mindset of obedience and then there's tricks. And I'm going to ask you, like, how do you help your clients shift their mindset from obedience to trick training so that the whole process in both arenas becomes fun?
Honestly, I think it's just a matter of putting them in that mindset, like you mentioned, just showing them that it is all the same. Training is training, whether it's telling your dog to roll over or getting them to do a sit stay. So it's just a matter of getting them in that mindset. And I always tell my clients it's harder to train them and it's easier to train their dogs.
Yes. Isn't that the truth for sure? So when you're teaching workshops for trick training, tell me, like, when you first got into it, what were some of the tricks that caught your attention as a younger person getting into this whole area that really pulled developed your passion for this element?
I think it was the tricks that require multiple tricks. So for example, getting your dog to open and close a drawer, or like fetching a drink from the fridge, that kind of stuff, where it takes, we call those chain behaviors, but it's pretty much a trick that includes like 3 or 4 different tricks all mixed into one. So I think that was the biggest thing that kind of drew me into trick training the most. And the fact that any dog, any age can do it. So like with agility, you can't really start agility until your dog's like a year old, or dock diving, your dog's supposed to be like 6 months or something. So trick training, really, you can do it with any dog, any age. And it's fun for both the dog and the human.
Yeah, it is. And you know what, guys, at the end of the day, the objective is building that relationship between you and the dog. And I truly believe that trick training is one of the best ways to do that, because the person is different. They are having more fun doing it. Go to the example that you just mentioned with one of those first tricks that drew you into the world of trick training, getting a beer out of a fridge. And you mentioned chaining behaviors together. So take us through the process of what are those behaviors? I mean, how do you break them up? Which are the ones that you're chaining together, and how you would teach each step of the way?
So for the getting the drink out of a fridge, one, I would use something smaller than a fridge at first. So I would use like a cabinet instead. I would attach something to the cabinet's handle, and I would pretty much wait until the dog offers something. So normally if a dog knows how to tug or retrieve objects already, it's a lot easier to teach. But doing something like free shaping and just rewarding the dog for interacting with the object would be how I'd start. So the first trick is to get them to pull on the rope or pull on the handle to open it. And
Can you? Yeah, sorry. I just want, there's a lot of people that are going to understand the terminology, but some that may not. Can you just define for those who may not understand what free shaping is?
Yeah, sure. So free shaping is pretty much where you wait for the dog to display a behavior. So for example, if you want your dog to lay down and you just stood in front of your dog with a cookie and your dog laid down, you would mark the behavior with a yes or a clicker and give them the treat. So that's free shaping. It's just waiting and allowing the dog to figure it out themselves.
And might you also reward small approximations towards, like, getting the rope or a hug?
I would reward the dog for pawing at it, nosing it, doing anything, and then eventually you can not reward for the thing you don't want. But the idea of it is to just pretty much reward every single little thing the dog offers.
Okay, cool.
Closer and closer to their goal.
Right. Okay, so now the dog has the tug in its mouth and it's able to open it. And then what would you?
So then I'd be working with the door open from then on, and I would have the object that I want them to retrieve. I'd start that with the object being on the floor and getting them to bring it to me, and then putting it on a table and getting them to get it from there, and then eventually putting it inside of the cabinet and getting them to retrieve it from the cabinet.
Now, do you tend to pick tricks that your dog is showing elements of? So for example, if you see your dog do something, you're like, oh, he's offering this, I bet I could teach this.
Yes, we totally can. But I feel like in that circumstance, it'd probably still be the same learning style, where like the dog probably won't offer it right away just because it's something they do. So you can do something called capturing. So when the dog does the behavior, you can reward them for it. And that normally gets them to offer that behavior more and more because they're getting rewarded for it. So for example, there's a trick where Hero sticks out his tongue on command. And I pretty much would reward him anytime he did it naturally. And then I'd start adding a word to it. And then I would start free shaping it. And hopefully he would offer that behavior.
Awesome. So as beginners are looking, somebody's watching today and they haven't really done trick training. They've done obedience with their dogs and maybe they've taught their dog to shake or whatever. What would be some of the basics that you would recommend a new person starting, or somebody with a puppy who wants to just make it more fun for the pup?
Yeah. So I always recommend obviously the basics: sit down, stay, and then spin and twist, where they just spin in a circle one way and spin the other way. Another one is leg weaves. So that's like the start of canine freestyle, where they weave between your legs as you walk or as you stand still. It's a figure 8. Really good for puppies. I always recommend a lot of rear end awareness. So using a flipped over dog bowl, having them put their paws on it, having them turn around it, just getting them more aware of their body and how they move.
Cool. So with let's say a puppy, for example, teaching the weave, could you go through, or with your dog there, if possible, just maybe show what the steps might be?
He's like, hello. Ready? Yo. So I would have the food in one hand. Take a step and bring the food through nice and slow, and reward them when they get out. He really likes his treats. Around. We'll take another step. Right here. It's in my other hand, dummy. There we go. Good job. And one more. Yeah, the way. And eventually, you can just lean. Go through. Good boy. Go through. Yes. Good job, buddy. Good job. Good boy.
So fun. That is so fun. Now, when someone's first starting trick training like that, they're picking a particular trick. How do you set the human up for success by helping them with their expectations? So my worry would be that somebody gets so excited they want to start training a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Is there like a certain schedule or timeline by which you would recommend somebody's working on one or two things at a time?
Yes and no. It truly depends on the dog. So there are some sessions where I work on a variety of different things. And then there are some sessions where I just pick one trick. And then back to the first question of like what I would say, like skill level should they stick to? There really are tricks that are novice, like intermediate, advanced. So I would recommend sticking to tricks that are easier, but just build your dog up. Because as your dog learns, the easier the trick training gets.
Completely. And what would you consider to be novice training?
Novice training,
baby levels.
Basic obedience. Like, can your dog sit and stay in public? Like really simple stuff. Can your dog focus with you while you're in public? If your dog can do that, then teaching them a more difficult trick is going to be a lot easier, because you're going to have their attention and they're going to want to please. And
what would be that next level? Something that's an intermediate trick?
I would say maybe like back stall, jump in arms, foot stall, where they jump up on your feet. And then like I would say the complete expert advanced tricks would be more like walking handstands, jump rope.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I want to learn how you, I want to hear how you teach that. And I was going to ask the same question. How do you transition from introducing the trick or the step via a treat to transitioning out of the treat?
So the biggest thing is when I train, I don't use treats. I use the dog meal. So they get their breakfast, they earn it. They get their dinner by earning it. And then that makes it a lot easier for when you actually want them to just perform the behavior. The other thing is when I do performances or I'm in public, I do use treats because it's a higher value reward. And the dog is definitely going to be really hyper focused on that treat. I find by training with their food, it's just a lot easier to just have them do it, because it's not like this whole, oh my gosh, I really want the chicken. Oh, you don't have chicken. I'm not going to do it anymore. It's just, I do the behavior and I definitely get something in return. I
was just going to agree with you on that. I think there's a lot to be said for utilizing that perfect opportunity of their feeding time to teach them anything. And it also, again, puts you in control of their resources. And at the end of the day, fosters the bond, which is the ultimate goal between. Yeah. So someone was mentioning stuck at Trick Dog Intermediate because it takes so much time doing maintenance training. How often should I be doing refresher training? That's a good question.
Like I said, I train every single day with my dog's meals. And even if that's just for 5 or 10 minutes, it is an everyday thing. And it doesn't need to be long. It could be like 1 rep on 1 trick, get your dog to spin once, get them to roll over once. But yeah, it is an everyday thing.
Mm-hmm. Just like us, if we don't use it, we lose it, right? Over time.
Yep.
Now, what about some of these more complex tricks, going from the weave into a jump rope? And are there certain dogs that should be doing a jump rope kind of trick? Are you looking at?
So I would say that all of the high impact tricks, I would just make sure that your vet can say that your dog is healthy enough to do them. Because there's some dogs I know that are super athletic and super energetic that probably shouldn't be doing those things. So just make sure if you're really concerned, you can do x-rays. I x-ray all of my dogs just to make sure that they're sound enough to do those behaviors. But for the most part, most pets can do, like I said, most of the novice to intermediate tricks. Not every single pet is going to be doing a walking handstand. So yeah, that's probably what I would say.
How do you teach that?
So the handstand is a variety of different behaviors. So I have my dog back up onto an elevated platform. So his back feet are up on an elevated platform. And I do that for several months or just several sessions, depending on the dog. And then I get them to back up onto my arm. And then I remove my arm. So they pop themselves up and they get rewarded. And the longer they stay up, the more treats they get.
Wow. How long is that process, would you say?
Just depends on the dog. It took Hero about 3 years. It took a female about 2 years. And then it took one of my dogs 6 months. So it depends on the dog. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense for sure. As when you're going out and I know you teach a lot of workshops. And in fact, I want to mention that Sarah's going to be doing a 2-month travel tour, teaching workshops at various facilities around the country. So is all of that on your website where people might be able to?
Yeah, it is on my website. Just off the top of my head, the workshops that are open and have availability are North Carolina, Kentucky, Mississippi, Nebraska, Kansas, and Utah. And then
so you guys, she is the world's leading trainer on tricks. Okay. So all of these, she's doing several workshops. Most of them are sold out. So if you are in any of those areas that she just mentioned, you can certainly go to the website and look at that again. And this is something that interests you, then by all means book a ticket. But if you're in an area that she is not and you want to host her there, if you have a bunch of friends and other people who are interested, I'm sure that you can talk to her about coming out to the workshop in your area too. So as you do your workshops, you're teaching the average person, but you yourself are a performer, a professional performer. Tell me what goes into preparing for a show, an event that you might be doing for a company where you get hired. What is the process that you go through in preparation, and how do you choreograph or decide what this performance is going to entail?
So I'll use the show that I have coming up. I have a Las Vegas show coming up next week. I think it's on the 7th or 8th, one of those days. And it's just a 4-minute routine in an hour production. So it's pretty easy on my part. They send me the song. The song is completely edited and it's exactly what I would be using. I have a piece of paper. I write down pretty much musically, like beat wise, where I want each trick. And once it's on paper, then I can start practicing it. And for this particular one, I actually had to make props. And it's a little different than what I'm used to, but it's kind of similar to America's Got Talent, where you're only given an X amount of time. And
now, is this like a show that people are buying tickets to go see? This is like a TV show performance?
No, this is actually a private corporate event, and that's all I can say. It is circus themed. That's something I can say. But when it does come out, it's I'm pretty blessed to be able to be a part of it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm sure they'll videotape it and we'll get to see it on YouTube at some point. Good. So Roger's asking if you have been doing competitive agility, and I believe you have.
Yeah, so Hero was my second agility dog. I actually started with a Cocker Spaniel when I was 14, I believe was my first agility trial. So I've been competing ever since, and then Groot will be my next agility dog.
And do you have a particular trick that's your favorite?
A trick that's my favorite. Oh man. Not really, because what I do is I put all the tricks together. So they're all kind of fun, especially when you put them together. A favorite trick to teach would definitely be a handstand, just because you get to see the progress that the dog goes through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's yeah.
And what do you guys do during your downtime? So like if you're preparing for your shows or you're in the process of teaching new tricks, are you still teaching new tricks actually to your dogs? I'm curious.
Yeah. So Hero is probably the only dog that's not learning new tricks. He gets to put together new routines, but he doesn't learn anything new. He pretty much has everything down. Yeah. So if we're, for example, like traveling on the road, I'll train in parking lots or in hotel rooms. And then if we're at a show, I'll train in the green room. Just a lot of training all the time.
Yeah, and the dogs that you have though, that their personalities are such and their breed types are such that they like to be working a lot. But do they like to have some downtime? And if so, what do you guys do?
I mean, they like, honestly, only a couple of them do. So most of them just bounce off the walls. They're just crazy. Like we'll watch a movie and I have to set up our dog beds or our elevated platforms, and they have to be told to lay down and just calm down.
Yeah, so that you could have an evening off.
No, yeah.
And there's something to be said for that, because, what do you say to people who are watching your shows and they're turning to their partner or their mom or dad and saying, I want a dog like that?
I've had people come up to me while we're out being like, oh my gosh, is that a border collie? I think I'm going to buy my daughter one. And I just look at them and I say, don't.
Yes.
They don't take me seriously, sadly. They're like, but yours is so well behaved. It's like, yes, he's 8 years old. He has a lot of training.
Yes. And speak of a lot of training for sure. I mean, that's just your whole world that's the lifestyle is a trick. Yeah. Would you show us some more tricks? I would love to.
Sure. You want to do more tricks, Hero? Yeah, I know. What do you want to do? All right, let's see how much room we can put up here. Here, move your dog bed. All right, ready, pup? I know, go around. Sit. Good boy. Yeah, front. Push. Yes, push. Yes, orbit. Orbit. Good pup. Good boy. Good boy. He walks a lot. Good boy. Ouch. Good boy. Stand. Good stand. Good stand. Stand. Yeah, stand. Good job. You don't have to spin. Just stand. Good stay. Are you ready? Go get in here. Let's see. Do you see the floor? We kind of see the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good boy. Good job. What are you looking for? He's crazy. He's also a little senile.
That's awesome. Now, how old is he?
He's 8.
He's 8. Awesome. And he is the only dog in the room, or were the other ones barking like, I'm ready to work?
No, he was the only one. He's very loud.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. I'm just looking at some of the a barking orbit. I love it. So are these names for training for the tricks? These are like the names that everybody would call them. It's not names.
There's some that I've kind of just used. Yeah, I feel like orbit was one that I kind of just started using. It wasn't really a name for it. A lot of people are calling it reverse. But truly, I tell people the name doesn't matter. Like I could call a trick donut, and the dog doesn't understand what donut is.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of just whatever you want to call it, really.
One of the things that I love about trick training and what you're sharing and what you said early on at the beginning here was about watching the dog do what they are doing, and you're capturing that behavior basically, or shaping it. And then you're telling the dog what it is. So, remembering everybody that they don't speak the same language, but they understand the pairing of words and their actions. And it helps you to become a better trainer too, if you're talking less initially. So, okay, let's see. some great questions here. So let's take some of these questions. Do you have any issues with handler focus? So this would be, I would imagine, for agility, missing obstacles because the owner's or the dog's too focused on you.
But if your dog's missing obstacles too focused on you, that means that you're doing a poor job of directing your dog.
Yeah.
That's what
So, yeah. So just a little bit more focus on
to be focused on me because I'm going to tell him what to do.
It's always us, right?
100%.
we are, yeah. How do you work on stopping from barking at times when you don't want the dog to bark?
Honestly, he only barks when he's performing, so it's not an issue, thankfully.
Yeah, and it sounds too like that bark is him. He's just like, I'm loving this, right? Yeah, that's great. For a dog who does bark, though, can you share how you might be able to turn that into a trick that you could then turn on and off?
So if a dog is barking, let's say they're barking at the TV or they're barking at somebody outside, the thing to do is to give them something else to do. So that's where place work would come in handy, is getting your, like, if your dog starts barking, you can just send them to their bed and their job is to lay down and not do anything else.
Mm-hmm. If you were to distill it down at that very novice level where people are focusing on those first obedience tricks, what is the core foundation trick that you think is the base foundation by which everything else will
probably the rear end awareness, but also the place work. So the place work teaches them patience and the rear end awareness teaches them how to use their body.
Love that. Okay. Chris is asking, what age do you start doing more complex tricks?
Depends what you consider complex, because I teach all my dogs to do the orbit around me. I teach all of them to sit pretty. I would say any of the high impact, so rebounds, foot stalls, back stalls, I wait until they're about a year. It also depends on the dog, because my puppy Groot was probably 7 or 8 months when he started doing frisbee and stuff because he's so small. But a dog like Hero, his growth plates would take a little bit longer to develop and close. So you would want to wait a little longer for him. So it depends on your dog, and it just truly depends on, just how big they are.
Yeah. Now, you have an app that you developed for training. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Pupper, Puppr. It's free to download, and it covers pretty much any trick you could imagine. It's on the app. We are slowly developing it so it has a lot more sports. We have an agility pack right now. I'm in the process of filming a frisbee pack. We'll probably introduce herding and barn hunt and dock diving and all of those things. And right now it does have like a new dog lesson pack, which is pretty much all the basics that you need. Mm-hmm. We're working on having a leash walking app. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in the works for it, but it's really fun for anybody, especially kids, because as you train your dog, you can earn badges and rewards. And there's a whole bunch of stuff coming soon to it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You guys, you got to download this app. I'm going to download this app as soon as I'm done. I'm always happy to learn more. Is there an association for trick trainers? I didn't even think about that. There are dog trainers, but
not really. But even with like dog trainers, there's so many, and there's so many ones.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
You know, Roger, I like what you said though, because you're having so much fun doing it. And I think I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, quite honestly, Sarah, the future of dog training and some of these transitions that we're seeing in the mindset of the dog owner and how they want to raise their dog.
Honestly, I'm going to say just a little bit about that. I think it's scary how everything is progressing and how limited dog trainers are becoming, what they're allowed to use and what they're allowed to say. So I think the future of dog training is a little scary, especially within the past couple months.
That's interesting. Okay. What, in your vision, what do you think is most important for a family rescuing a dog, adopting a dog, as far as how they should be focused on training and how, where they should be incorporating trick training and having fun? Where can they go to do these things? And, what would you like to see happen as you're discussing?
I mean, I think that for anybody bringing a new dog home, I think structure is key. People need to just get educated. And when I say get educated, don't just learn from one person. Learn from several, like find 5 or 6 trainers, completely different training methods, and learn from them and just use what you want to use. But I think that structure is key. A lot of people don't think structure is important because they just want their dog to be able to do whatever they want because they love them. I had one person message me on Instagram today thanking me for showing how to teach place work because she never thought that it was possible to teach your dog to do nothing. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's something that most people just don't know that they can do.
You know, and because my take on life is always based on these lessons that we learn from our dogs. But to what you just said, the ability to be stationary, not doing anything. There's an awful lot of value in that, especially in this day and age. Yep. Just hanging out.
Doing nothing.
Doing nothing. I got 2 doing nothing right here too, but they were fine. I should say finally they're doing nothing. They were very busy doggies early on today. But the idea that we always have to be busy, we're always doing something, we're multitasking, et cetera, and then expecting our dogs to also be performing or responding to us instantaneously, constantly as well. I really appreciate you saying that there is great value in structure as a whole for your dog and even for yourself to have some boundaries there and to give your dog boundaries. They appreciate that. I think it's helpful for them.
I've been training dogs for 14 years, and I thought by now people would understand that free feeding is a problem. But 14 years later, and we're still at the exact same place we were 14 years ago.
Yes. So great. Roger loves the app. I want to encourage all of you to look at the app. What about Sue's asking the question? I'm just going to throw it out there. Your thoughts on a shock collar?
Well, it's the proper term would be e-collar. But you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to say I married a balance trainer. So before I was pretty pure positive, I used a lot of food. I never said no. And then I married John and I learned that there's a lot more things you can do with your dog and treats don't fix everything. He's worked with some very, I don't want to say red line, but they're pretty severely aggressive dogs. And I've seen some dogs go home and just change the owner's life. So there's time and place for everything. And that's pretty much what I've learned within the past couple of years is that there's a time and place.
You know, and I commend you for your openness in being able to review data and just look at it as pure data. And if you're witnessing something firsthand, then, you know, you're using that data to answer that question. So that's great. What are you most excited about right now with what you're doing with your business, with all the training you're doing, with the travel, with the performances?
I honestly excited work more dogs and more doctors. I've never taught in that part of the United States in a very long time, so it's really exciting. That's probably why the workshop sold out so quickly. I'm working with over 300 dogs in the span of I think a month is just 300. So we've got another list going on.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, and then I have my year is just completely booked. It's crazy.
So we need to duplicate you. Have you created or decided? Have you ever thought about creating a certification course using this Sara Carson Devine methodology?
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Hopefully something will be out in the next couple of years, but we're working on something.
Oh, good, because we need to scale you and leverage you so that you can also enjoy your time too. It's a lot, you know, with all the things that you're doing. What inspired you to get into dog training to begin with? I'm just curious.
Honestly, I was 11 years old when I got my spaniel and I knew nothing about dog training. My parents told me that tugging with your dog makes them aggressive. So that's the amount of knowledge that they had. But honestly, I watched some videos online. I thought it was super cool. I started doing it with my spaniel and I just got severely sucked into this dog world. It was crazy.
Oh, that's great. I had to look under the desk just to make sure they were both there still sleeping there. I got a little worried for a second. Good. And do you prefer to spend most of your time on the trick side? And and less on the obedience? Are you doing more trick classes or?
So all of my workshops are trick related, except for one. I'm teaching a Frisbee class. But I much prefer doing dog sports and doing trick training. Actually somebody made a comment a couple days ago saying my dogs weren't obedient because I focus on tricks, but I can take my dogs anywhere and they listen. So not sure what that comment meant. I don't, it's not my main focus. I would rather have a dog that can do a walking handstand anywhere than have a dog that healed anywhere. But it's just what I do. I can take my dogs on a stage and perform, and that's my version of an obedient and happy dog.
Yeah. I think the beauty of it is we all get to define for ourselves, and it's just whatever works for you in your own,
much
in the way that you're choosing to live with your dogs, and you get to do a lot of fun stuff, and you also get to bring a lot of smiles to people's faces.
Yeah.
And that's important work too. That's hugely impactful. Roger's asking about, he's in the process of completing his AKC Breeders College training. And some people react very negatively when learning, I want to breed dogs. So what are your thoughts on that? And maybe elaborate a little bit more on your concerns over future of dog training.
Honestly, getting educated, and I don't see what the problem is. I have dogs that are from really reputable breeders, and they'll probably breed them, and I get to be hands off, which is nice. I don't see myself being in that industry at all. But if you're getting educated on the topic, then I don't see why not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if I might add, Roger, my own personal opinion on that too. To me, it's all just about responsibility. It's responsibility in taking your profession seriously, of course, and educating those who would be taking on a pup from a litter that you're breeding, et cetera. So, again, everybody has strong opinions in all directions, and each individual truly in this world must make decisions that are best for them. And whatever. So Ariana's asking about different breeds. Like, would you entertain adopting other breeds in the future, or are you finding that Border Collies are kind of your match?
Well, it's I'm adopting another dog this week, so that's fun. But would you ever adopt a different breed? Eventually, I would like to have another spaniel, probably a field spaniel, because they're just a lot more athletic than a regular spaniel. But yeah, I definitely want to have different breeds in the future.
How many? You have 3 dogs now?
Oh no.
Okay. Lay it out.
I'm going to be at 5.
Okay, 5.
And then my husband has 3, and then we have boarding trains and a whole
bunch. Yeah, you have dogs everywhere. What's it like? Truly, you're as a single woman, you were all about dogs. Now you're married, newly married, right? Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And you married another dog trainer, so your whole life truly does revolve around dogs.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what is that like? Like, are you and your husband always on in that mode too? Or
I am most definitely, especially since I do all my own everything. I do all my own booking, all my own everything. I am on all the time. I'm that person that can be grocery shopping and then checking my emails. So yeah, I'm definitely, all the time.
Wow. Well, you have such a deep passion for what you do, and it really is life-changing. What I know I asked you this the last time that we spoke. I'm going to ask it again, though. I have a feeling I might know what you might answer, but I'll leave it up to you. And that is, if you were to be a dog, if someone were to describe you as a particular breed, what would they describe you as?
I would most definitely be a border dog.
That was a given.
Yeah.
Greatest lesson you've learned from dog?
Greatest lessons. I think I said this last time too, but it's honestly the lesson of patience.
Yeah.
I uploaded a video just a couple days ago of working with one of my golden retriever clients who took me 2.5 minutes to get him to put 2 paws up on a Fit Paws peanut. But it just showed, like I said, very minimal. I rewarded every little success. And that's really what it takes to be a good dog trainer. And a life lesson is just to be more patient.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And fill in the blank, dog is my
life.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. I can totally see that. I want to make sure Karen gets her question answered because it's a great question. How do you train? I'm going to assume it's tricks, Karen, beyond the basic manners, obedience. Mini dachshunds.
Well, honestly, every single dog breed can be trained the exact same way. I don't care what anybody says. But the biggest thing is that you need to build his food motivation. So I would be using his meals to train. He doesn't want to train, just don't feed him. You need him to get motivated to train. So the biggest thing that I can tell anybody to do is to get their dogs food motivated, get them working for their meals, and they are going to be much more eager to please.
Yes. That's why we have a very easy time training Bolo, my lab.
There we go.
Try to get her to become food motivated.
Labs love food.
Oh my gosh, do they ever? I need to write a coffee table book of Bolo's adventures in food because it's been a crazy ride.
Oh my God.
That's awesome. Are there any other key tips or points that you want to make that I maybe didn't get to ask?
Honestly, it's be patient. Use your dog's meals structure. Download my app.
Yeah. I think like my biggest takeaways from our conversation this afternoon are number one, you guys download her app. Truly, if you're in an area where she still has a few seats available for her classes, her workshops, go to her website and check that out. Go to those. But getting back to the very basics of setting boundaries, getting your dog food motivated, being in control of their resources, and making it fun. Being patient and just have fun. Last question. Chris is asking, what do you think about dog parks with high-strung dogs like Border Collies?
I'm sure I know what you as there was a recent video that made everybody just lose their minds. But personally, I train outside of dog parks. I've taken my highly trained, not insecure, extremely confident dogs to dog parks, and that's not an issue. But if you have a high-strung dog or you have a dog that's insecure, fearful, or that just doesn't listen to you, period, don't take it into a dog park and let it off leash. It's just going to cause issues. It's going to start dog fights, and it's going to make you look like a really bad dog owner. So train outside the dog park, make them nice and comfortable, build their confidence, and train them elsewhere.
Great answer. Stephanie, let's pop in the name of the app. Also, it's called Pupper, Puppr, because that's the cool way to write that, right?
I know,
right? Totally. And your hobbies. Yes, someone wants to know. I'm curious too. Hobbies outside of dogs and dog training.
Sure. I do a lot of photography. I am a graphic designer, technically by trade. I have a degree. So I do a lot of that. And yes, all of my pictures are of dogs. So
yeah, that's funny. Well, you're truly living through your passion, and we should all aspire to that, to find something that calls to our heart in such a way that it becomes our life's mission and message. And so, Sara, thank you again so much. For those of you joining in later, my name is Gila Kurtz. I'm one of the co-founders and co-owners of Dog is Good. We do a giveaway every week. We're giving away our new Plum Dog Lover hat, and we will pick the winner tomorrow. So please share this show with your friends who also want to learn about trick training. And stay tuned. Every other week, we normally will have a guest on. If you know of someone that you think would be of interest to our viewers, we are all about telling the story about the dog-human relationship through all the fun things that we get to do. So again, Sara, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will talk to you soon. See you in a couple weeks. Take care. Bye. Hold on, Sara.